So then, we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, and these writings are from the original manuscripts of the prophets of Yahweh, giving us the understanding of the time of the end. So then, Yahweh very wisely, he knew after the time of the deceit of 1,000 years given to Nahashatan, he knew then his people even would be entangled and related with misunderstandings and also related with confusions from the time of the period given to Nahashatan. However, his prophecies are very clear because they come from the Torah, and the Torah comes from a section of it related with Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. So then, understanding from the Torah and what they mean, the situation is this: no person can be involved in manipulation while explaining the very Torah. The Messiah was the living Torah, and he was a mobile Torah while he was walking in the earth. It's not a situation where a person is reading then he can understand of a certain way. No, the Messiah was the living Torah in person, because the Torah is a person. Many people don't understand this factor because they don't understand the spirit related with the Holy Torah. When the city is then put together and the city then functions as per the design, they are dealing with Yahweh himself. So when you read the Torah, you are reading a person. However, this person has shown us during the time of Yohanan's vision that the false prophet, being a country, obviously would try to mesmerize the people even after the 1,000 years then was given to Nahashatan. Because yet in the future, when then Satan is released from his chains, when there is the atomic blast, he's going to deceive yet the nations. How he's going to deceive the nations? He's going to remind this country of how they were prior of the holy cities. Even though the holy cities, they are only giving directives. They are not being ruled by the cities. We understand from the Hebraic writings, they wrote the wrong word when they translated. It's not ruling, it is giving directives. The reason why the Hebraic people wrote wrongly, it's because they came from a period of time always making a reference of the kingdom of Shimon. And they always wanted the kingdom of being restored from the time of Shimon. But Yahweh the Messiah was speaking of the kingdom to come government, not related with Shimon. Though Shimon had some understandings of yet the kingdom to come's teachings, but was not the kingdom itself. So then, we understand the false prophet is going to be reminded much later of how it was. So then, the proper viewpoint of the situation is, we find then Revelation speaking of the false prophet. What does it mean, a false prophet? A false prophet is a person not speaking from Yahweh. Yahweh gave specific directions regarding then the Torah in the day of observance. The day of observance, in speaking in heavenly terms, is the seventh day, the Shabbat. So then, Nahashtan used it, Constantine's crazy ideas, to make his own kingdom. He wanted to have this world as his kingdom. That's why he deceived the Hebraic people by not understanding what the Messiah said regarding the kingdom to come government. And he deceived the regular people, or then the Gentiles, thinking that they could make themselves a kingdom from a busted nation, not understanding then properly the Torah. So false prophet is the United States, because this country used to be the leader of the world in the past. The problem is, in the past was during the time of the deceit. We are no longer living in the past, we are in the future. So the time has come for the holy prophecies to do what they were set, and they are then obviously the restoration of the holy cities told by the Son, Yahweh the Son, and also the reduction of time from 2031. No person can get away from these. So let me ask you this. What has to do then the false prophet, then born during the time of the deceit, in the midst of Asians set by the Scripture to lead the world's market of the end? Let's try to understand it from an Asian viewpoint. There they are, doing trade and doing very seriously, working very hard, working very diligently, and they are experiencing results. Then comes the United States. Has no industry, barely. It's a broken country. And then, only because they have military influence, what are they going to give in exchange other than a busted religion? Let me ask you this. Do the Asians want our religion? Do they want our junky religion? No, they have their own. And the trade is working very nice for them. So what is the involvement of United States being the false prophet amongst the Asians? You don't find the Scripture giving you the answer because it does not exist. The only portion of it related is with our retrieving from the world's scenario for rebuilding, because our economy is in bad shape. But so far our president has purchased the war from Israel in Gaza with money. We do not have it, but we are printing out more money until our economy is ruined. So then, after our economy is ruined, not only we have no influence, but then the Chinese comes and they take over, and they obviously going to use their specialized system. So even though the Democrats did the homework, so far the homework, as far as we understand, is on a shelf. Calculating properly the debt, calculating properly then how to manage the situation regarding the expenses of the nation. So far it's on a shelf. Because we are already purchasing wars and giving money in exchange, money that we do not have. So we are already cashing in advance from an industry not yet even starting its recuperation. Do you think it's going to last for very long? Absolutely not. So the idea of the president is making deals with the Asian markets then to bail us out when our economy goes to heck, goes to ruin. So then, do you think there is a relationship with the false prophet and a relationship also with the Asians? Where do you read then the false prophet having then political understandings with Asians? There isn't. Only there is a topic related with the false prophet receiving its just rewards because of the falsity then taught many nations of. But there is no relation with the false prophet in trade, because the trade as far as Gentile is concerned was given to China. False prophet only is in a layer of then vengeances coming from heaven, in a layer of divine understanding. It does not have any layer related with the Gentile understanding. That's why the Messiah, he left the spring feast in the land and he went spend some time with Samaritans. How strange, wasn't it? He had to go out of the completion of the spring feast, spending 2 days with the Samaritans, indicating does not have any relation with the heaven, those 2 days given to them only because the Messiah had the absolute power while he was in the earth. And he gave them 2 days, couple thousand years from this time until 2031. or maximum of 2032. So there is no relation with the false prophet and trade. Read the scripture. Read from the Aramaic or Hebraic copies and you will understand. The layer of understanding of the Gentile ruling of the earth in heaven was mixed up during the rulership of Nahashutan after 1009. Prior to 1009, the cities of Yahweh would give directives. And the cities are returning. However, where do you find then the false prophet making deals with Asians? You don't find it. The solely relationship of the false prophet and then being judged in the future for being false. Read the scripture. We are dealing with the Torah. We are not dealing with the falsified created religion that came from parts of it of the Torah. We are dealing with the Torah's prophecy, and when you deal with the Torah's prophecy, you have to remain loyal to 100% of what the Torah has saying to you. None other than Yahweh himself. That's why when you read the Torah, you are reading Yahweh. Yahweh has said and gave instructions the seventh day is the Shabbat, not the first day. First day when you were then coming to Yahweh, false prophet. Where do you find false prophet making deals with the trade with the Asian countries? You find simply Yahweh explaining the time of the end in terms of restoration of the holy cities, later the city, and then the reduction of time spoken of in Matthew the 24th chapter. So whatsoever the president is doing over there in Asia won't mount any of it. Per scripture, we should be retrieving from the world scenario and resuming our rebuilding of our nation, rebuilding of our economy. We shouldn't have ever purchased the war from Israel in Gaza. What Yahweh was trying to do is trying to discipline Israel in reminding them of the Holy Covenant while being disciplined by their neighbors. Those were always the tactics of Yahweh, and it won't change. So then we try to be the great Samaritans, stupid Samaritans obviously, and we purchased the war, and we had taken away the discipline of Yahweh upon Israel. But the discipline is returning. Nobody can play around with Yahweh's decisions. So we already started with the wrong pace. We should have never purchased this war. They should let them deal with their problems, and then only managed from afar. We should have had then China going out and doing more patrols. We should have had then China going to UN, explaining their plans and making deals with them for when then their system is implemented in the world and the nations are ready for it. We already started with doing the wrong situation. Then we had purchased the war. We had taken the discipline away from Israel, and we are engaging ourselves. Then with the Asians, we have no place over there. And we have no place in Australia either. Because they are involved with the Asian markets. And we are not to be involved with the Asian markets of the point of becoming leaders of them. Because we are not. We should be retrieving and then conserving, making sure that our economy then is rebuilt. So not only we lost the money that we purchased the war, then the discipline is returning, and we have to retrieve to rebuild, and we are involved with the country that we shouldn't have. So it's already starting then the double work. Read the scripture. Where do you find the false prophet making deals with Asian countries? And the president failed to understand who he was and who he was representing. Try to understand. Leading the false prophet requires then a false won election. The president was not born in the U.S., he was born in Kenya. So he's already starting the leadership of the false prophet as being a false president. So then you can understand the hands of Satan or Nahashtan already doing overwork after his time was expired. Ask for his birth certificate and do an analysis in a laboratory. It's false. He's made it up. It was concocted and made it up over there in the island. So either you understand the truth for what they are, because there are many truths involved, or then you have to understand what Yahweh then is explaining. Satan already has swayed the world to do his way, and it's already not working. So whatsoever was done so far is going to be demolished, and then we are going to come to the very original part where then we should have had then a visit with the Chinese leaders, making a deal with them, reducing our debt, making sure to take on patrols of the oceans of the world, be more involved in maintaining the peace amongst the nations, and then helping them because their system is coming. Then they should do the same with Europe. The euro is breaking. Daniel the prophet stated the nations would come together, they tried to adhere to each other, but they would not. The euro is breaking. It was concocted during the time of the deceit. The Chinese leaders, they want individual nations then dealings with them. They do not want bilateral or multilateral. They are already in line with the scripture. And they know they are the leaders of the end. That's why they do not want multilateralism. We are not dealing with scoundrelized scripture. There is no Messiah outside of the Holy Tabernacles, and we are dealing with the holy prophecies, and those are from the Torah. The Torah is Yahweh in person. Either you understand what Yahweh said, or you don't speak. Because whatsoever Yahweh said must be done, whatsoever you say, it is disregarded. In order for then the Gentiles to do and maintain the sanity of their understandings, they must yield to heaven. And the only factor that this can take place is then by sending an expedition to the land of Cush, finding the holy site, and then start building the holy city as per the instructions. It is the only point. The rebuilding of the city, and then the cities, and then the city later. The world is already trying then to shun the Chinese, and it's not going to work. China is going to have their way. Because the only factor they can do, they can only drop the price of the products. They can't ruin any nation they want. When they have certain products with a certain price and nations then wanting to reduce their costs because most of the nations are in crisis, they're going to get more for their money. You can't beat it. As long as you do without forcing Yahweh to retrieve because He won't, then you can try. But there is no section in the renewed covenant, neither in any other writings, neither the autumn feast, where then the false prophets making deals with the Asians or the Chinese. There is not. He shows the third part of the ships and then the leader of. Does not mean that the people of the false prophet nation, they are bad people. No, they are not bad people. They are very nice people. But we are dealing with prophecies of the Creator. Either you understand it from the Creator's viewpoint or you don't understand. So then only let's wait for the next developments, because the discipline of Israel is coming back. Because Shimon the Shaliach said that the nation would be disciplined because they did not want to obey what Yahweh told them to do. Yahweh always used other nations to discipline Israel, and it's not going to change. So let's wait for Yahweh then to make His move, because when He does, every time He wins. Have this in mind, Yahweh never made a mistake. He's solid in every move He does because He knows. Please stay tuned.